Okay, so seeing as the entire creative community is in lockdown, and no doubt there's some poets who are out there going, oh, I could use this time to learn some of my poems. I have had it because I perform my poems without a script on stage. I've had some poets come up to me and go, how do you remember all those words? So I thought, oh no, I'll do, while we're here, do a video on how exactly I do that. First thing, there's no shortcuts, or there isn't for me anyway. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of reading the poem, trying to recite it from memory, getting it wrong, and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. But hopefully I can give you some tips on how I learnt this poem, where I went wrong, what happened, and hopefully you can get something out of it. There may be, and there probably, well, I'll say maybe, there will be some people who are much better at this than I am, and it can give you better advice. If there is, please put it in the comments or do your own video or whatever. This is by no means the only way to do it. This is how it works for me. You can only see the world through your own eyes, can't you? So, this is my internet poem. If you've seen me perform recently or just stood next to me in a pub for 10 minutes, I will have recited this poem to you. And it's quite a wordy poem, if you don't know it. I'll put a link in the description to a video of me reading it out, so you get a feel for how it kind of flows and stuff. But let's go through it, and I'll go through how I remembered it. So, I wrote the poem, and as I wrote it, I kind of knew the first stanza actually was this one here about Lucy. But it just felt like this isn't a page piece, this is a performance piece. So as I was writing it, I was actually saying it out loud. And that helps you remember it as well, because as you're going through the writing process, to actually keep saying it, it helps put big chunks of it in your mind. Yeah, I kind of knew this was going to be a performance piece. I kept saying it as I was writing it, and that helped. This first stanza, internet, when we first met, it was great to see you were my best mate in the best pub with the best grub. You were sausage, mash and peas in the Yorkshire pub the size of a bathtub. The way I remember that poem, the way I remember that stanza, is I just see my best mate in the pub. I see his body, but his head is just sausage, mash and peas in the Yorkshire pudding. You will never forget that image now. And that's the point. Silly images really, really help. There's a couple of, in fact, the next one I think that we go to, I remembered it because of a silly image. But simply by having that silly image and writing it and reading it as I was writing it and constantly going through it, that stanza just kind of pops out. I don't even have to think about it. This next stanza, I could do everything up to there. And I would always fall down on the next lines. So this is about internet. I remember in our early days watching two people on either side of the Middle East divide, find empathy for each other. And that was in the chat room, despite nothing but text for people who were fans of Beck. Beck? Imagine if we tried that now. It would be contentions in all caps, and perhaps someone would mention Scientology. And that row would go on and on and on and on and on. The next line. Then a guy would say something misanthropic. On stage I usually go, and then a guy would say something misanthropic. There's actually a line here as well. And that was in a chat room that displayed nothing but text. When I wrote it, I put displaying nothing but text. You'll find that as you perform things, as you rehearse things, as you try and learn them, that some words will get tweaked. That's fine. Don't be scared of that. It's your voice finding a way around the words. And it's okay. There was a great saying that Harrison Ford once said to George Lucas when they were making the first Star Wars film, which was, you might be able to write this shit, George, but no one can say it. And one of the biggest things a lot of times in movies when they accuse actors of being very poor at acting, it's not that they're poor at acting, it's that they're being given very bad dialogue. And as you're reading something out loud that you've written, you may find it just doesn't sound good in the air, and you tweak it. And that was one of those. When I get to this bit, and then a guy would say something misanthropic, I would always fall over there in between those two sections. The reason being, it's not a complete change of subject, but there's a shift. You'll find a lot of vocalists will say that when they get the first line of a chorus or a verse, they'll be fine. But if they forget the first line, they're stuck. It's almost like you say the first line and everything else that follows it isn't a problem. But that first line, you get stuck. And it's usually because there's been a change of subject, or things have shifted, or a viewpoint shifted, or you've just moved somewhere else. There's a change of some description. That's exactly what happened there. It's a minor change, it's nothing major, but we've just gone from Beck and Scientology, and we've just gone to someone being misanthropic and a Russian troll. The way I got round that, the way I remembered that, is I would go from, in my head, Scientology to Russian troll was where I was falling down. So all I would do was take an image I would associate with Scientology, which is, of course, Tom Cruise, and a guy, and an image I would associate with the Russian troll, which, of course, would be a guy in the Mission Impossible films starring Tom Cruise. So yes, when I'm reading this bit out on stage, performing this bit on stage, in my head is Tom Cruise fighting a Russian spy in a Mission Impossible film. It's a bit of a silly image. That's what helps me get through it. There are also some parts of the Mission Impossible films that are misanthropic, but that's the subject of another video. And we're not doing video essays, we're doing poetry. Carry on. I would then find that the rest of it would be okay. So yeah, when you fall over on a line, and in rehearsal you'll keep falling over on the same lines, you need to try and work out why. And if it's this change, you need to find a way of dealing with it. And one way of dealing with it is make it a silly image. There you go. This next stanza, again, it's based on truth. I don't want to come across as, well, anytime you forget a line, it's because it's not a truthful line, and therefore you're not being truthful to yourself, therefore you're not a very good poet. I'm not saying that at all. I used to go on a movie website, and she wasn't called Lucy. She's called Lucy in this because it rhymes. But there was a person on that website who used to speak eloquently and confidently, and now keeps their trap shut. Because it's the internet, and because of what happened. So it's true, and yes, I see the website. As I approach that stanza on stage, in my head I see the website and it just comes out. This next bit, again, don't really seem to have much problems here. Where I get a problem is when I get to this list. So, internet. Now you want to know where I am, where I've been, who I'm drinking with, what I'm wearing, what I've bought, what I've sold, who I'm attracted to, my favourite colour, my entire search history, and if I've got any tattoos, you'll notice I got that wrong. It's fine. You may not have noticed, but I missed a line out. Lists. Lists are horrible to remember. Because of that thing of it needs to flow. When they jump around a bit, what do you do? If I go, what I'm wearing, what I've bought, what I've sold just comes naturally. What I've bought, what I've sold, they connect. Who I live with, you'll notice I missed out there. But it didn't matter. The line I always used to fall down on and completely forget was this one. Who I'm attracted to. Maybe it was because the first line was living with someone, attracted to someone. Well, isn't that the same person? Well, of course it is. And my kind of borderline Asperger's brain gets a bit locked in on that and goes, whoa, and I start thinking about that. And is that a flaw? And and I'll drop the line. you'll notice, and I'm trying to work out in my own head now, if this is something I do a lot now, whether I've completely dropped that line altogether. I may have done. I'll find out when I watch the video of me performing it. Do I do the line "Who I Live With"? I can't remember. But what I found in rehearsals was I was always falling over on that line, "Who I'm Attracted To." I then got it so that I could do it in rehearsal. But then when you take it on stage, the adrenaline and the just emotional turmoil of being on stage, I would lose it again. If you forget your lines on stage, the worst thing you can do is freeze and panic and like, because all that's going to happen is you're going to make the audience feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel uncomfortable. Look, you're a human being. You make mistakes. It's fine. Just if you forget a line, be honest. Just go, "No, it's gone. Sorry." You'll notice even now when I go on stage, I'll either have my iPad or a folder, or believe it or not, in my phone, I will have my set list. And if I make a mistake, it's there. It's a crutch at the side of and you may not even notice that I've gone on stage and put it there, but I always do. Just in case it all goes, I'll just go, "Sorry, forgot the line, give me a second," and people will be fine with it. If they're not fine with it, it says more about them than it does about you. Don't worry about it. But with a line like this, if you find that you keep falling over on the same line, again, is there a way of creating a silly image? With this, the way I ended up doing it, being brutally honest, wrote it on the back of my hand. So on the back of my hand, if you see me with writing on the back of my hand when performing, it's usually my set list. I can remember the poems. I can't remember the order I'm supposed to perform in. But I would write my set list on my hand, and then kind of at the bottom I would write "Who I'm Attracted To." And if I found that I lost the line, rather than completely interrupting the flow of the set and going, "I need to get my phone out" or whatever, I'd just go, "and who I'm attracted to," and it would just go. The thing with this is, because the rhyme there is "who I'm attracted to," my favourite colour, my entire search history, and if I've got any tattoos. So it's 2 and tattoos. So long as I hit those 4 lines, I'm fine. And this is well worth remembering with lists. I know we want to be perfect. I know we want to express ourselves properly. But you know what? If it completely went out my head and I went, "Now you want to know where I am, where I've been, who I'm attracted to, my favourite colour, my entire search history, or if I've got any tattoos," no one's going to know. You'll know, no one else will. So if on a list you can just remember the first bit and the last bit, as long as it gets you in and out, you'll be fine. Sometimes those middle bits and long lists, it can be really difficult. Again, this was a bit easy to remember because there's a few more rhymes there as well: sexuality, ethnicity. I will just perform this now with my eyes shut. I'll need the first line. You want to know my gender, my sexuality, my age, my ethnicity, my desires, my hates, my hopes, my loves and my fears. You'll notice I put my hopes in between there. On the page when it was written, that wasn't there. As I've performed it, I've just felt I need the rhythm of it. I need another line in there. And it just came out. So as you can see earlier, I dropped that line and I've added one in there. These things happen. It's not rigid. It grows. It changes. It evolves. It's fine. This kind of last section, hyperbole. I was one of the people who pronounced it hyperbole for about 20 years. There are going to be certain words Another word for me is, so I just had to stop, is the word metaphor. 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 Genuinely, that is what's going on in my head every time I need to say that word. I usually go simile instead. It's true, I do. I can't tell you why. I think we've all got them. There's just certain words that are difficult to say. And for me, hyperbole, because I'd spent years saying hyperbole, it's difficult. And you've got a couple of options. When you're writing a poem that you know you're going to perform, do you put words like that in? I mean, if you're not very comfortable on stage, probably not. Just find something else. In Word, right click and go to synonyms, and you know what I mean? Oh, that was a peek behind the magician's cloth. I kind of like to push myself a bit, and I feel I've got the chops that if I make a mistake on stage, that I'm comfortable enough in my own skin, and I'm not comfortable in my own skin at all. I'm comfortable in my own skin on stage, but I'm comfortable in my own abilities, I suppose, on stage to kind of deal with anything if it goes off the rails. If you're not like that, then kind of avoid these difficult words. But yes, as I wrote the word hyperbole in this poem, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have some fun doing that one on stage. And yes, as I'm saying that line, in my head I'm going hyperbole. It all seems to come out right. But it is there. I've also got one which is S sounds. If I have to say the word yes. Again, you may not have cottoned it, but in my head I just had to have a little pause before I said it. The word Jess. Can't do it. Jess. Because I want to say Jesh. And that's just something I found about my own speech patterns, is I sometimes turn the S into a sh sound. And again, it's being aware of that sometimes you need to go, oh, I might say that word wrong, and maybe substitute it for another word, or take a risk, have some fun with it. So yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea of how to kind of break this down in your head. And when you hit these spots and you have problems, why you're having problems, and the way to get around it. Like I say, there's no substitute for hard work. You've just got to put the time in to learn it. And yes, as we get older, it's going to take longer. I don't know if the microphone picked that up, but a siren's just gone past. Crimes against poetry. That's what that's for. They're coming to get me, folks. But yes, on the whole, if you're saying it out loud as you're writing it, that will be a big help. As you're rehearsing it, you'll keep falling over on certain things. As you fall over on those certain things, try to work out why. Sometimes as well, it's worth remembering the line, even if it's halfway through a stanza. So I can go, who I'm attracted to. Because I kept falling over on that line, one of the things I used to do was I would walk round going, who I'm attracted to. Who I'm attracted to. So I could remember the line. If you see our PPP show, at the end, Steve does this long poem, and I've got no idea how he remembers that. But me and Emma have to come in with the occasional line. Right at the end, I have to stand up, walk round, stand next to Steve, and go, covering each other's blind spots. Now, as I'm walking to my mark, as I'm about to open my mouth, in fact, as I was about to open my mouth there, I don't know the line. Just cannot think of the line at all. As soon as I stand there and go, and covering each other's blind spots, because I've done that, I remember the line. So I associate, and literally, this was a tip that Perseus gave me, was do a movement and keep saying the line. And what will happen is your brain will associate the movement with the line. So as soon as I go and covering each of those blind spots, it comes out. It's like a Pavlov's dog type of reaction, but it works. Push comes to shove. Write it on the back. Write those troublesome lines on the back of your hand, not the entire poem. And you will fall over on stage. There will be points when you start performing poems. You'll just forget the lines and just be comfortable with it. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Don't look. Even if it's tearing you up inside, don't. Just take a breath. Go. Forgot that. 1 second. And find out what it is, and you should be fine. Hopefully that helps. If it doesn't, sorry I've wasted about half an hour of your life. But hey, we're on lockdown, so what else are you going to do? There's only so much Tiger King we can watch. No, I was going to do a spoiler then for Tiger King. I better not. So yeah, there you go. If you've got any other tips, put them in the comments, or do your own video. You know what I mean? It's not all down to me, this. And also, you know, stay safe, wash your hands, stay home, support the NHS, do all that stuff, and hopefully that's helped.